Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot. We've got one hot off the presses, or rather, hot out of my email inbox. So I'm making this video basically right after seeing it. So the only delay is going to be in the uploading, and I never really know how quickly that's going to go. So this viewer writes in with a great question, and I wanted to go ahead and get to it right away in one of these readings because the energy is right, and I happen to have the time right now. So they mentioned that one message that seems to want to come out fairly consistently is that of your person being nervous about how they would be received if they approach you, even though they have this strong drive to come toward you. And they wanted to know how you might reassure your person that their contact would be well received and reciprocated. But they wanted to be able to communicate this without actually making contact themselves. Because so this channel has been out here since September of last year, but from the very beginning, one of those consistent themes is that we have this runner chaser dynamic where a lot of you are in that chaser side and aren't really doing very much of the chasing. So this person is one of those people, as they put it, non-chasing chasers. I completely love that. By the way, I love that. Um, I love that about you guys as well. It speaks to the progress that you have made and the things that you're willing to be vulnerable about within yourself, and it's beautiful. But it's they don't want to contact them because they know it would push their person into flight mode, and many of you know from experience this is exactly what happens. So your person is in this place where a lot of them are, afraid to make contact, but they can't stop being drawn into your direction. So we're going to take a look. And of course, it's a general reading. It's going to be for all signs. It won't resonate with everybody, but if the series has been resonating with you, I mean, these readings are incredibly tied together. So, anyway, it won't resonate with everybody, but if it does resonate with you, you may want to subscribe and get caught up because there is a lot there. I think I'm going to read for you with the Tarot of the Spirit. I'm going to put out that first card and then I'm going to clarify with the Uncommon Tarot. So let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to start around, and we've done some readings on this here in the past, like the recent past, but we're going to look at the energy around reconciliation in the physical with you. So this is something that we've really seen changing. It's that energy of reconciliation. So when we look at the shared energy between you, a lot of times we're seeing what's happening more on the spiritual side, in the spiritual realm. And so there's a lot of possibilities there because it's not in that physical, you're not seeing it physically manifested. But when we think about the energy with regard to reconciliation in the physical with you, that's what we're looking for here. And it's the energy between you. So it's going to be shared. Um, but it's whenever we look at that shared energy, it's always interesting because something that comes out on one side as one thing might be very different on the other side. Okay, but this one's about balance and things working out in a way that makes sense. You see cause and effect written on the bottom of the card, and it is about that balance and things kind of working well on a day-to-day basis. In what we the energy that wants to come from this in answer to the question, though, is really more that you guys would be balanced. You guys would be in a good place to be able to do reconciliation at this time. Not necessarily that you're being pulled toward it, because I want to be careful how I say that. It's not necessarily that you're being pulled toward it. Maybe we'll find out that you are, but this is saying you could handle it. But you also have to take into consideration. So immediately, what pops into my mind now is I think about the original question, and it's how do they communicate this without making contact? Um, because they believe that they want to be able to communicate that they would be the contact would be well received, and reciprocated, as they said. And so the question that pops out immediately for me here is that true? Would it be well received and reciprocated, or is that how how we're imagining it. So this is kind of what we're answering. And so far, it looks like this is pretty level headed. That's what that balance, that cause and effect, it's logical, it's rational. And that's the energy of reconciliation for you in the physical. But of course, also remember everybody's in a different place on this timeline. And some people, the separation happened more recently. So we've got the death card, and this is talking about change. We know that there is a lot of change happening in the energy. We've seen that in all the readings. We've been seeing change as it's been evolving and as it's been developing. But this is really talking about the transformation that happens as a result of that change, because that's what the death card is all about. It's not about an actual death, although something will typically end with regard to whatever enables this transformation. So something has to end and is ending, but the transformation has already ended for this transformation to begin to take place. Um, we have this recurring theme around Seven of Cups that I've kind of been noticing coming out, and it's about the Seven of Cups is a card of options and opportunities, but it's not necessarily easy to figure out what to do with these opportunities or how they really play out. Okay, so this is the two of you coming together, and it's the mood of you guys coming together in reconciliation and then not quite understanding how to play the situation, like how to even work through the situation. It's not a super successful feeling. This is part of why your person doesn't feel like this is maybe the right time or the right way to come back, because they're feeling like they wouldn't be able to be successful in that. And part of it is because, listen, um, I can't see the edges of what the opportunities are because of all this cloudiness and all this fog. We have the Page of Cups, which is really speaking to them being quiet. So we know that, but it's not necessarily that they are reaching out. So even though the energy might be reasonable for you guys to be successful if they were to do so, and that's kind of the question that we're asking. What is the energy for the two of you coming together? Is it going to be something where it would be well received, or would it jar you in a way that you're not currently anticipating? This says this is more of a balance. So this is the Justice card once again. We see that they're being very quiet, but we also see that there's a desire to make things right. And I think that's something I've been seeing in some of the personal readings as well. There's a desire to make things right, and it's 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 after things have not been. It's like they recognize that a balance needs to be established, which makes sense because we're talking about a reconciliation. But here it's looking like the energy is favorable for that to happen, but there's a lot of fear. And so we even see that with this King of Swords. So the King of Swords, his specialty is being able to back up and look at the big picture, successfully putting together a strategy based on what is there, what is seen there. Um, but there's not an ability to do that right now, and it's really just it's like contraction based upon fear. And so this quiet is all about fear, and which we've seen that in previous readings. It's been about, how does your person feel this extreme sense of magnetism, and yet this is the only card we want out of all those. They feel this extreme sense of magnetism, and yet they feel like they can't move forward. They feel like they can't move forward. And this is that sense of not being able to move forward, but this is the most shared energy out of all of it, probably. So this is interesting because what I'm seeing here is a door that isn't opening, but it's because both sides kind of have put a stopper on it or something up against it that keeps it from opening up. So interesting, not what I was expecting to see. I think we want another card on this, and this is just kind of again that current energy. This this style of reading is so wild because it's very connected. Okay, so the Chariot card here again is that energy to move forward, despite the fact that this door does not. It seems to be stoppered on both sides. It really seems to be. There's something about it on both sides that is stopping the door from opening and stopping this balance from happening. So that's interesting because it was feeling more like it was on the runner side, more on your person's side, and we see why. We see that they're having some trouble understanding kind of what the options actually are. Things are feeling a little cloudy. They're not feeling very successful, so they're being very quiet. Um, Okay, so that checks out with what we've seen historically. But let's get in here and see kind of what it really that question. So what is the how would you reassure them without contacting them? What should you be doing here? And that's really kind of what I want to understand. What should you be doing in this situation? Because the idea is to be able to reassure them that they can come back without contacting them. Four of Wind. There's not enough healing. There's not an we want this one too. This type of reading tends to yield a lot of additional cards coming out in succession. I've noticed that. So basically, what we're seeing here is that the healing is not really in a place yet. Um, where you would be able to reach out and reassure them. The reassurance almost has to come from within them. It can't come from you. They have to recognize it somehow on their own. So what we've seen in some cases that this is healing that has to be done in separation, the healing that you're doing, and this is kind of why, because it can't come from you. It has to come from another source, and then they have to make the realization. So let's see though, dig in a little bit more on that. So I wondered how that question was going to get answered, because I wanted to give it the best possible potential for being answered. um, so let's see here. How do you reassure them without contacting them? And what should you be doing? So there is a sense of a lot of really, it's a nostalgic feeling, that it's memories that are flowing between the two of you. And so you're encouraged to open yourselves up to the emotion that wants to flow there. But the issue that you're going to run into, and this is probably more of an issue for your person than it is for you, there's a lot of strong emotion that wants to flow here, and your person is they would prefer to keep that emotion somewhat limited. They want to be able to have some control over it. And so being able to kind of hold back on having that emotional flow, there's something that they need to say that they're not able to say. And if any stimulus that comes from you is going to push them farther away because they're so not ready to say this just yet, there is definitely a sense of emotional well-being and emotional stability, emotional independence that needs to be gathered here, which is why another reason why there is this sense of needing to do this while you guys are in separation. This is sometimes the single person card. It's the Nine of Coins, and so it's like the single person card, but it's also that's because it's a card of emotional independence. And so this emotional independence is really best gained when you are in separation, and also while being triggered by one another. And that is, man, that message just keeps coming out. And so it's like you're going to push them farther away if you reach out to them, but there is definitely some realization that is going to come for them that helps them to get closer to being able to reach out and reconcile. And the energy for that is actually really favorable. And so it's like there's work that still has to be done there. And it's around that. Okay, so we see self mastery on an emotional level seems to be something that I really feel like this is both of you that are still working on the emotional self mastery, although I feel like it's looking different for both of you. But again, has to be done in separation. It's not something that will be quicker or better if you are together, but you had to come together in order to spark the need for the learning. So we've got the Priestess that has also come out, and this is about that connection to your inner self, your higher self, your intuition. And this one is you can absolutely do this while you're with somebody, but it is something that is very personal. It doesn't require the other person to be around, but both of you need to make some progress in the area of developing a relationship with your higher self. There is there's a need to come together and really, how can I put this? To allow love to be the thing that drives what's happening between the two of you. And this is something that you are doing more and more as time goes on, but there's a sense of almost needing to let go, but a feeling that if you, this is going to sound a little bit wild, but tell me if this one makes sense to you. There's this feeling like if you walk away, you would almost be betraying them or betraying the memory of them a little bit. Definitely feeling that in there a little bit here with this Nine of Swords. And yet it's that release, letting go and allowing love to be the thing that truly draws the two of you together. That's going to be the thing that draws the two of you together. And that's going to be this healing that immediately came up. And this Father of Wind is the same thing that we see. Where is it? Over here, the King of Swords that came up in the reverse. The thing that's in the reverse about their ability to take that step back and take more of a logical look at things. They're still so fearful and clenched up about things in some ways, even with the, the progress that we're starting to see there. That this is not a strong point for them. I mean, it is in their life. If you look in the rest of their life, you'll notice that they're not bad at building strategy. However, it's something that is being very difficult for them to do right now, and it's something that has to be able to be done before they would be able to come together with you. So at this point, the main reason that you would not be able to reassure them, if the message were to come from you, is because they are so busy learning these lessons that have to happen in separation. And honestly, so are you, but yours are such, I don't want to say they're gentle lessons like they're easy to learn, but they are these lessons that feel like they're flowing, but you're also engaging them so well. And that's part of it. But there's that emotional self mastery and that ability to really just let go. And letting go is going to be the key here as far as what you need to be doing here, in order to get where you would be able to. Oop, I dropped a couple of cards, and it looks like we've got a couple of them that we want. So there's going to be the Eight of Cups, and then let's see where. Oh, got the other ones. All right, so the Eight of Cups, and this one is about figuring out exactly what it is that you want. And it's not that you don't know what you want. It's about finding the nuanced answers to this question. And it's about figuring out exactly what it is that you want, being able to move yourself toward it, and then being able to identify which battles actually make sense for you to fight. So when you start figuring out how you want to manifest things going forward, when that magician card feeling starts to come out and you start to feel things coming together, you start to get the sense of, here's the magician card, which we actually don't want. And it's interesting that it came out because it's totally in the reverse, which is the way that it feels right now. Anyway, the Four of Wands is the stability that you want to begin to gather to yourself. What ends up happening is that you feel like you don't need to have this conversation with this person. Definitely the reconciliation conversation can still happen, but there's this feeling of closure that you're able to deliver for yourself, that is going to help with all of this, because that feeling of closure is actually going to help pull your person forward. So your stability, and we see this sometimes, the idea of you moving towards something that is your own happiness, helping to pull your person forward in their own lessons. And we see it again here, only it's pulling them toward that sense of stability, emotional stability, that allows them to actually be able to feel safe taking that step back because that healing has been allowed to happen. So one of the things that I'm seeing is that you have to continue doing what you're doing and not reach out, which, we've seen that before. You aren't trying to reach out, and I get that. But this reassurance, this really has to come from an outside source. Um, Let's see a little bit more about what's going to reassure them, because I purposely left this third question wide open because I really wanted to see what was going to come out of this one. So, for this, let's see what it is that's going to help to create that reassurance for them, because we know they've got a bit of a hill to climb. They've got to get to a place where they feel like they're comfortable and stable enough to take that step back and look at the big situation. There's some healing that they need to do, there's some connection with their higher power. and really being able to walk away from some of the anxiety that's been plaguing them. But let's see how they get there. So, this is like that bridge question that we often ask in the extended readings, only it's going to be the bridge question for them. How do they get where they're going? Ooh, so they have to go through the tower and allow the energy to truly transform them. This is letting go in a different form, essentially. So the tower card, you see the tower come out when there's an emotionally tumultuous experience that is happening that helps to generate a huge change because everything kind of has to be broken down. Then you use those pieces to build everything back up. And so this lightning path is allowing, or it's the Eight of Fire. Okay, so it's like the Eight of Wands, and it's about allowing things to progress. Okay, so we've got the Nine of Wands. They've got to stop guarding walls that no longer need to be guarded. They have to allow themselves to do the transformation, just like what we're seeing up here. They've been a tower in reverse, reluctancy to make that change. But here, they need to really be able to allow transformation and allow themselves to blossom forward. There are going to be places where we don't have all the answers, and this is something that your person has historically been pretty comfortable with in other places, but not when it comes to you because of the fears that they have. So they've got to get better, more comfortable with that. That reassurance is going to come then from them, and that's part of what's going to give them permission to move forward. But so is the act of not guarding walls that no longer need to be guarded. It's allowing for change. Just like this Eight of Fire up here, this is that change. So this is allowing for that change, allowing for themselves to be able to win out over their fears, allowing for themselves to acknowledge and truly understand what has happened between the two of you, where you have experienced an uneven exchange of energy. And so this is all about them owning that, recognizing that, truly recognizing it, because many of them do. Many of them are getting to a place where they do recognize that. But then what do you do about it? Because then they realize that they have no choice but to reach out to you in a situation where they have felt like they, I wasn't looking at this, like it felt like they have literally no choice. Okay, but it's about letting go. This is the card of letting go, because the Four of Coins in the upright, so this is the Lovers in reverse. It's that I don't have a choice feeling. They're going to realize they do actually have much more choice in this matter than they previously given themselves credit for. But they have also got to, like I said, there's this card of and this is all we want, so I don't want to distract you with that, but this is that card of letting go or needing to let go, and that you see him kind of holding things down and really wanting to keep it to himself. Here though is that I'm going to let go. I'm going to release those attachments to what happens and what the outcome is. So that's good advice for you too, based on part of what I was feeling in here. You both are going to have to, and I said something about that over here about you're going to ultimately end up getting to a place where you're okay with it. You're okay with if they don't, you'll have given yourself sufficient closure that when this closure comes, you will be able to, as this predicts, be very welcoming. But they will feel like they can come to you when the time comes. They're going to realize, oh my goodness, they're going to get to a place where they've let go of the outcome. And even if you didn't respond well, they would be okay with it. So they would be willing to jump into a situation that requires an awful lot of effort and be willing to make the best of whatever comes out of it, and kind of it's an opportunity to make everything move and be very cooperative, and they've got to generate the energy for this and the energy to come forward towards you. So that's there's some honorable mentions in there, but I think this is the main gist of it. So you guys are well suited to the energy of reconciliation. Reunion is what could potentially come later, where you would have potentially maybe come back together. But this is you guys finding that closure. This is saying you're going to have to give each other, or you're going to have to give yourselves that closure, and it's going to help to lend that energy to the spiritual union that will allow the two of you to be okay when you come together, which is what we see here. And we see a lot of that reiterated here when we think about what it is that your person is going to have to do to get to that place where they're going to feel comfortable coming back your direction, because ultimately they're going to feel not only comfortable, but like they feel like they're going to have to. They're going to feel like they really want to come back your direction. And like I said, that's likely when you will hear from them. But by that point, you will both have found some of that closure and be in a healthier place. So, whew, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up now. But thank you so much for the question. Please keep them coming. And on days like this where I find the time, I'm going to jump in and just answer them as I can, or we can always weave the questions into readings that are coming up. So if this is your story, go ahead and hop on. Maybe hit subscribe and check out some of those previous videos. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you again in a future reading.